What does your father do? Does he still work?
He does still work. He's a farrier. He
They clean hooves, right? Is that
he puts shoes on horses' feet and stuff. Yep.
Oh, I watch that on YouTube sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's
I like when they release those abscesses. It's really cool.
Squirts. Yeah.
Yes.
It's disgusting. It stinks.
I kind of don't get it sometimes. I'm like, so horses aren't supposed to have hooves? You're just going to cut all that out? Or like, why are hooves so poorly designed that they've got holes in the middle of them, or like pockets that aren't supposed to be there?
It's mainly because wild horses, they have so much room to run. They shorten their own feet. But since most horses are in a stable, or they're very controlled in their movement, they can't wear their own feet down, so they'll grow.
Well,
and they grow infinitely. Yeah,
it's probably part of the shoeing process. I even potentially creating an abscess. I always thought, and I've never seen it. Maybe Zach can find a picture of like wild Mustangs' hooves, because I think I read that they're like really splayed out and just overgrown.
They're real wide. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the abscesses are just like they'll step on something, get like a rock wedged in like a spot, because the hooves are shorn down, like what Kyle's saying, and then it's just in a weak spot, and then it slowly gets, they're 1,000-pound animal running 30 miles an hour, so it just kind of gets smashed up into their into their frog, and sometimes a nail or something like that.
I wonder if they're real sensitive to the length of the hoof. Like, man, one of my legs is effectively a quarter inch shorter than the others, because the goddamn farrier cut off too much hoof.
Yes. My dad is like that. One of his specialties is like conformation. So horses, he can tell based on their gait. Like some hooves he'll leave longer than others to change their gait to be more efficient. So like he's a lot more, because he used to trim mainly racehorses in Northern Virginia. Like that was kind of his thing. So
I was just going to say, without doxing him, like where in the country is he?
He's in Central Texas with me. He's actually outside at my house. He watched the dog attack the cow.
But they have him travel all over to handle horses in Virginia and such.
Not so much anymore, but back a couple of years ago when he was a lot more involved in it. He's trying to retire because it's a very exhausting job, and he'd rather just do whatever he wants than that. So I was like, I'll pay you to just do whatever you want.
Yeah, just work out.
Just get shredded.
Just do pull-ups.
Good for him.
Yep.
That's funny. You have like a remarkably fit dad, and you're still like, you alive?
Yeah, exactly. He's just digging a hole for like 3 hours outside, and I'm like over there looking at him, making sure he's upright, and he could outrun me, and there's no way I'm even close to being as physically fit as he is.
Damn. You got it. I mean, you got the genes for it though. You can get yoked.
Yeah.
You just got to start eating more than ginger.
I know, that's my big deal, is I can't eat much.
No appetite.
Just a week. Yeah, I wouldn't say no appetite necessarily, but I don't like to eat I don't like to be full, really. Because I have like I guess I have what's called OCD of thought, sometimes I'll have like a thought, and then I just can't stop thinking that thought. And sometimes that thought is when I eat, I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw up. So then I just start thinking that a lot. I think it's called an eating disorder, to be honest, but I don't know. And I'm much better than I always have been. And I feel like I'm the heaviest I've ever been. I weigh 159 pounds right now, which is pretty awesome. So
that's good.
What other thoughts do you have that you can't shake?
I used to think that I was going to kill myself a lot, or never any. Yes. Like I was going to kill myself, or like when I would be driving, I'm like, I'm just going to drive off the road right now. And then I'd be like,
so you mean delete yourself?
Yes, exactly. Delete myself. Yeah.
Everyone on the road has thought like, I've never thought like I should do that. And I've thought like I could change. Bill Burr has a bit about that where he's like just thinking like you could change, you could be on the news. You could like,
yeah, it's so weird.
So why were you like, was something wrong, or it was just a thought that you couldn't shake?
I don't know. I think there's always been something very wrong with me, to be honest. It's just like a lot of things that I feel like are bad and I shouldn't think about. I think about them a lot. Not as much now, fortunately. And it rarely ever has to do with like killing people.
Yeah. I was
all right.
I was asking, when I was an accountant, I used to sort of do this like cost benefit of different injuries. Like if I broke a leg,
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'd miss any work at all. But if I broke an arm,
yeah, dude.
I bet I'd get like 6 weeks off. That's how much I hated my job.
Man, I can't remember what I was watching. The guy wants painkillers. Oh, it's House. I remember there's an episode of House where he's trying to hurt himself in such a way that they'll actually prescribe him painkillers at a clinic somewhere. And I think he breaks a bone or something, and they're trying to give him Tylenol. He's losing his fucking mind.
I
will say that
killers.
It's one of the reasons I think I don't like kind of subconsciously like to drink or anything like that or do anything kind of crazy because I feel like I would just like go into it balls deep, just get crazy with it.
Did you get this
real good at it?
Like these thoughts as a kid, invasive thoughts?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, I had I wouldn't say a psychotic break or maybe a nervous breakdown would be a good description. When I was like 15 years old, had a bit of a existential crisis, if you will, and I feel like pretty much since then, yeah.
What was the nature of it?
What was the impetus?
I was reading a lot of books, and I just started to get incredibly obsessed with like nihilism and just thinking that stuff didn't matter, and like wondering what motivated people. And I just felt like there was no motivation. And then one day while driving, I had a horrible panic attack, and I didn't know what it was, so I associated it with a lot of different things. So it's like basically from that point on, I couldn't go into a vehicle without having a panic attack or think certain thoughts without immediately going into like a full-on panic attack. And then that just like led into me, becoming, because of the physical stress of that, being very depressed and like dissociating for a long time and trying to read books. And then combining that with like negative ideology and negative philosophy just caused a really bad sort of negative.
That's a rough time.
Yeah.
I
How
was
did
also
you get to the other side.
I don't know, to be honest. I think just like I wasn't like scared really or anything, or I think it's just the whole time I was always trying to better everything that I was doing, and I was like, I just like there's no reason for me to not do the things that I need to do, right? Like there was a time when I first started YouTube where I would play these stupid games. I would literally have to take a cold shower to be able to form thoughts where I could like speak and like direct my energy for an extended period of time without just feeling like, oh God, I'm just panicking all the time. I would take a cold shower specifically so I could think for like a couple hours. So I really don't know how I got out to the other side, but I feel great now. I feel very good and I feel stable and have for a long time. I've been through therapy and all that stuff. And I think really what it comes down to is like feelings. So like feeling like you don't really have control over something. That's like how I always feel, basically. That's like my innate sense. That's my innate feeling that I feel. And I think having like a lack of faith or confidence in myself is like the root of all that stuff. And since I've started to actively have faith in myself and like choose to feel a sense of faith, not necessarily in like a deity or a god or anything like that, but feel like, oh, this will work out. I've never felt like that before. And when I started to actively do that, I think I started to feel better. And like I could actually control my mind a little bit.
When you went to therapy, did you stick with the first therapist you saw, or did you bounce around until you found one that you thought was a perfect fit?
First one.
Is that how you do it again if you were a therapist?
I feel like that guy was really cool because he had a lot of respect. Like I came very prepared. So like I had read a lot of books and already was trying to learn like cognitive behavioral therapy and like all this stuff to help myself. And I was just like, how do I do this stuff? Like I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to be, like you're the guy who is supposed to help me. And he just gave me like a really specific regiment that I could actively follow, and it helped almost instantaneously. So he gave me.
What does the regiment look like? I'm not following.
So the regiment, first off, I told him that I wouldn't take drugs because I feel like that would sort of the logic for me there, which I don't think this is a good, healthy thing to feel. But I feel like if I were to take SSRIs or something to help with depression or like anxiety or uncontrollable thoughts, then I would have lost, which is not a healthy mindset by any means. But it is something that I would have eventually conceded to, but it helped enough to where I never had to worry about that again. So what he prescribed was, or he didn't really prescribe it, but he suggested that I journal very consistently and try to make note of my thoughts, more so like whenever I would have any kind of thought, to just write it down so it's real. So I realize things that I'm thinking instead of just like having this crazy avalanche of just shit that's always going on. And mainly to be able to reflect on things. So like whenever I'm doing something positive, having those positive things be able to actually stick out instead of working against myself. That was the main thing. He called it ants, which there's a book about that. It's like automatic negative thoughts. You just, even if your life is 60% good, 40% bad, they're relative, or subjective, you're going to focus on the 40% bad. And when you're in a bad spot, you're going to focus on the 40% bad 100% of the time. So, and obviously I knew that, I'm just a fucking regular ass white dude with parents who are awesome. And like, I have all this stuff and like, I'm not like rich or anything like that, but I have no reason to feel this way. So I knew that if I applied this stuff, I could eventually reason, and being able to reason started with being able to control my thoughts by getting them out of my head.
Doesn't
that's what he prescribed.
I can relate to the success yet not fully happy sometimes. And it sounds like you do what I do sometimes, which is completely invalidate unhappy vibes. It's like, oh man, this fucking sucks. Who are you to complain? You have a heated day, you fuck shit. Like, and now you're not happy. How many people would want to wake up today and not go to work? Your daily fucking day, you asshole. And it just there's a little hint at my inner dialogue.
Yeah.
Like a perspective shift. And by the way, if someone is in a crisis and they feel bad and they're depressed, it's not a good thing to approach them with. I've learned. It's like, hey, there's fucking people dying and starving everywhere. They're like, oh, I know. It's like, that's not it works really well on me and obviously you, but the perspective shift is a super powerful tool.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that focus on the negative thing, I used to do that. I'm much better now, but there was a time, say my YouTube comments were 95% positive. Well, I'm deaf to those, right? The 5% that told me what I did wrong.
Sycophants.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your word.
Sycophants.
Sycophants. Yeah, no, you're right. And then the 5% that had something negative to say, those
liars.
Are the ones that I'm like, oh, they're truth tellers. They're the ones who see me who I am.
Sycophants, liars. Dude, I always, whenever people shit on me, I always read it and like try to find parts, try to be objective and like find parts that are like valid. Like there's a Reddit called YouTube Drama. And sometimes my content is adjacent to that Reddit and they'll talk shit about me. They hate me. And I'll read it. And I'm like, man, some of this stuff is like very valid. Like this makes sense. I get it. And I'm not going to change, obviously, but like it does, I get it though. Like I completely understand. It's, I don't know. I've got a lot of respect for shitting on myself.
I just happened to
I think it's a good tool.
It is.
I uploaded an unlisted video. It was about a sick fish asking for help. And it made me look at the ratings for last week's episode, which were really bad. And I was like, what happened there? I didn't walk away thinking it was bad. And the comments were just shitting on all of us. We had an interruption problem. I think our guest had a tech issue. So he couldn't tell when we were talking, and he kept talking over us. But the comments blamed us entirely. They were like, you keep interrupting your guests. I'm like, what, with the middle of my sentence? Really? That's not how I remember it. And I would like go out of my way to silence myself as soon as he interrupted me. And it was a challenge, but the comments were not kind to us.
And he would take over a conversation and go and go and go and go. And you couldn't interrupt him because he wouldn't hear your interjection for like 4 seconds. So then there'd be the back and forth nonsense. That was all him.
And that's not how the comments call it. So I read those and I was like, all right, I need to stop. I think that they're actually incorrect this time, but I don't know. I want to be like, give me a timestamp. Show me the time that I did the interrupting, because I that's not how I remember it, but I can be wrong.
Yeah, it does suck to get criticized and be like, damn, they're not only right, they're entirely right.
Yeah, I know that happens too. That happens too.
Yeah, because it's like there's so much that goes into the way people perceive things, and perception is not reality. So it's like I don't know. It's really I don't know. It's very impersonal.
Yeah.
But fuck them. Liars, sycophants.
All the mean comments. Zach, delete all the mean comments on this one.
Anything with a negative connotation. Fuck those people.
Get rid of all of them that aren't overwhelmingly nice.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
There's 7 comments.
Fellatio.
There's 7 comments on the video.
There's 7 comments left. Yeah, they didn't like the show, and I think I thought our guest was a really good storyteller, but the technical difficulty I think was the root of the conversational issues.
Yeah, it was a tech thing for sure.
But
I was speaking of, you were talking about like the neurotic thinking, Caleb, you'd have as a young person, teens. Like I remember being so consumed with fear over like my loved ones dying and going to hell at the age of like 6, 7, 8, like all the way up to like 12, that it would like sleepless nights as like an 11-year-old being like, my grandparents are going to die and there will be no way for me to know if they're burning for all eternity or if they're not. And I would just walk around day to day and be like, Taylor, did you do your reading homework? And I'm like, you're going to die and you're going to go to hell. Maybe. What if I
learning about life? Yeah.
I don't want to die and go to hell.
Yeah.
I hope I make it to heaven. Is there a way to know? Yeah, that was so panic inducing for so long. My mom took me to a kid therapist when I was like 11 or 12 for that. And it was so unhelpful because he was like even looking back, like it was a Christian therapist, but like frankly, even like a normal Christian would have been like, you just cut it out. Like, stop worrying about like going all the time. Like that's ridiculous. Like it's what a normal person would do. But I remember specifically sitting in that office and he's like, what's the issue? My mom's in there too. And I'm like, I can't stop obsessing over how everyone is going to die around me and either go to hell and burn for all eternity or not. And there's no way for me to know after they die what's going to happen. He was like looking at his paper and he's like, that's a very real fear. And
that's why it's important.
Awesome.
To worship him every day.
It was stressful. That guy stressed me out for like a whole nother year after that.
Your mom should have taken you to me. I'd have been like, none of this shit's real, bro. They're going to get eaten by worms, and that's the end of their existence.
That wouldn't have helped.
I'm here to help.
No, it's so easy to fix that when you say, hey, son, what did they tell you about God? That he's all good, right? And he sees everything, and he knows everything? Now let me ask you so. Is your grandmother a good person? Yeah. Well,
the best.
She's got nothing to worry about then, does she? Because he sees all that. If you think that you see how good she is, just imagine how much he loves her.
See, you would have helped
1,000 times more than you.
A pediatric Christian therapist.
Not the worm thing?
And then when I was...
no, not the worm thing. He's 11, Woody. He's 11. He can't handle the truth yet.
That would be all. Yeah, they put me on SSRIs for like a 6-7 month period.
When you were a child?
Remember what it was called?
Yeah, when I was a kid. I think it made me into a weirdo. Like, because your
that's what did it.
You should. That's what it is. It wasn't me. It wasn't intrinsic. And they put me on it, and it was during 5th grade. How old are you in 5th grade? 11?
Yeah,
like around there. So like I was on it for like most of that 5th grade school year. I have no memories. I have no distinct memories of 5th grade. Like
that's awesome.
Kindergarten through 4th grade, 6th grade through 12th grade. I can think if I just think for a second, like, what's a 3rd grade memory? I can like close my eyes, think. Oh, I can picture what seat I was at, like where my teacher was, like something that happened with a friend. But 5th grade, it's blank. It was awful.
I would love to lose 5th grade. That was the year they bullied me for fixing my hair, walking pigeon-toed, and blinking too much. Yeah, that was a terrible year.
You know what I do remember from 5th grade? 9/11.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
that was my.
They put you on SSRIs.
Yeah,
that was 9th grade for me. It was a sad day though. Sad day. Yeah, really. Everybody was bummed out. We didn't leave school either. We just had to sit through it.
I mean, it happened so early in the Midwest that like it was basically an off day. Like get to school, 30 minutes of time. 9/11, go home.
I think
George Bush comes in.
Yeah, George Bush came in.
We were listening to the radio in driver's ed, when it got broadcast, whenever they cut into, the 70s music or whatever we were listening to. So, and then we turned the TVs on and watched.
Did you know it was a big deal at the first plane?
I don't know if I don't remember if the first thing we might have heard was that there were 2 planes. Because I do remember the coach who was like the driving instructor being like, I bet it said Osama bin Laden. I swear to God he said that. Although, to be fair, he's like the only terrorist whose name you know, right?
Yeah, I didn't know his name before 9/11. Maybe you did.
He did. I guess he was, the Al Qaeda guy. I'm sure he watched Fox News. They were probably
a boat or something during Clinton's term.
Wow, they big step up from a boat to World Trade Center.
It is a big ship, and he didn't sink it. He just did a lot of damage.
How do you get that building 7 though? How do you get that?
He only gets an assist for that
I
one.
think he might have taken down 4 buildings in New York. Am I right about that?
Could have been 5. Who's to say? One fell down last week, 9/11.
I didn't have an early meeting, so I was driving to work, and the first plane hit the tower. Cool. I get to work, and people are just learning, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've known this for 40 minutes already. It's no big deal. One plane hit a building, was probably an accident. And everyone else, like, instantly knows this is a big deal, and I'm like, fires happen all the time. You're quit your belly aching. And then a second plane hits, and now I'm shocked. Now I'm like, people are purposely ramming planes into buildings. It took 2 buildings for me to realize this is a pattern. And then it wasn't long after that the Pentagon got hit. And now I'm concerned the internet at that time wasn't what it is now. Today, we'd all be watching live stream video. It'd be no problem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
we would
have TikTok of the fight against the hijackers.
Back at that point, like one person CNN feed was actually moving and every other computer in the office wasn't getting refreshed. So we're all crowding behind the one that worked, and nothing. I wasn't getting live news updates, but I was on the phone with my wife and she's like, the tower collapsed. And I wish I could take it back. I'm like, collapsed? How collapsed? And she's like, it's falling. It all fell.
At free fall speed.
And I was just like, all of it fell. How tall is it now? Because I was expecting like the I don't know, the top 3
like pancaked
stories.
A little or something.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't know how tall it is now. Maybe like 1 story when it all comes. I was like, oh my God.
It's real wide ground floor. But
you got your wife doing like mental math evaluations. I don't know.
It takes 110 stories and remove all the air. Maybe it's 2 stories tall now.
Bigger than the subway next to it. Damn, 9/11. Never forget.
Never forget.
I can't really remember.
Forget what?
No, that's not nice.
Oh, you never even remembered 9/11 once?
I mean, I remember the day that it happened. I guess I was like 6 or some shit like that. My dad was walking around. He was mad.
Dude, so you didn't get mad.
There were a lot of American flags
weird to me. I
was homeschooled. I was excited to go out.
It wasn't okay to laugh. Sports were canceled. Like, funny shows weren't on. It was like everyone was like, oh my God, something so horrible happened. We're supposed to be grieving. I remember talking to neighbors privately, and we're all like, I don't even know how to be me. Like, I'm not supposed to smile right now. It's weird.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was like a national week of mourning, and it felt fitting. It was a very serious time. No, there weren't anyone who was joking around about it got taken care of. Like, there was no like comedians complain about like, can't say this, can't say that now. Okay, maybe occasionally one of them gets beaten up on stage. I've seen it happen 2 or 3 times. I just don't think you could have done 9/11 jokes on 9/12 and not gotten hurt.
You couldn't even dance in the street.
Well, you could in some places. They were dancing in the streets in Palestine. Everybody forgets that.
Maybe a little dancing in the street, right? Depending. Yeah.
Trump said there was. I believe him.
He wouldn't lie.
He knows.
I've never
heard of him being untruthful.
No. Someone that old, you get there by truth telling.
Oh, the debate's coming up. I know you're stoked on it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch. Can't wait.
I'm gonna watch it after the show, I guess. It'll be.
How long is it? Like, how long are they supposed to be? Like an hour?
I was gonna say 90 minutes is a good estimate. Yeah, I don't know for sure.
That.
Enormous number of ads in that block, so probably like 40 minutes of them talking, maybe, if that.
I think you might be overestimating the ads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I want RFK to go. Debate him.
He officially didn't qualify. I read it today.
I know he's only like 7% or something like that.
I don't like him.
I don't like listening to him.
Yeah.
Every so often I'll like try to turn on a podcast or something, and this guy is just speaking this alien throat clearing language. Like, I can't take it.
Yeah.
What is he, a snake person? What is he?
Yeah. I like that he's jacked for a 70-year-old. That's what I like about him.
That I admire.
But I don't like the anti-gun stuff. No, thank you, sir. Get out.
I like that he wants to get rid of the CIA and said that the CIA killed his uncle and father.
I heard Schwarzenegger talk about that, and I've adopted his opinion. He's like, you got to understand where this guy's coming from. I'll never pass judgment. His father was killed. His uncle was killed. I think his brother died in a plane accident, and maybe his sister or something.
Kennedy curse. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one, I think that is a plane accident also. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, if my whole family was either murdered or died like semi-mysteriously, then, you might give me a little latitude with my conspiracy theories.
For sure.
He did have that brain worm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Self-admitted.
And it's almost like backs up any like paranoia he might have. Man, who gave him that brain worm? You don't just get brain worms.
Yeah, you know what he needed? You know what would have solved that?
What's he like
a brain worm?
Little ivermectin.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
Brain worm right out of there.
That's how he discovered the worm. It was the ivermectin that Trump prescribed for him.
Yeah.
Dude, what's crazy is during COVID and stuff, I know people, personal friends, who've been taking ivermectin and doxycycline, like horse antibiotics, since I was like a child. Like people will just eat horse medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like very normal in the horse
medicine.
Doxycycline's okay. Like I don't want to give anybody medical advice, but like,
of course, yeah.
You see that in survival like texts and stuff, like the one about how to make antibiotics out of the fish tank cleaner stuff. There's an antibiotic fish cleaner.
There's a couple different fish-related antibiotics that are also used in humans. Yeah. I just don't know the doses or like the purity or like
the purity bothers me.
I would rather get it from my doctor prescribed, like a first world country.
I trust.
Look at Mister. I have health insurance.
But
well, my fish food.
I'm also like understanding of a guy who's like, shit, I don't have a ton of money. It's difficult. They gatekeep these antibiotics, yet I have them on the shelf from the last time my dog was sick. And it's like, it's just, I don't know. Treat your strep throat. I'm not judging you.
Quick little Google. What's the dosage for a human? Oh, well, he's a Great Dane. It's already the similar.
It's the same, right?
Go.
I don't want ticks anymore.
Yeah. Dude, I'm always dosing myself with some red line before I go out in the woods.
That could not be healthy. That's crazy. It just pumps you full of shit to make ticks not like you anymore. That's fucking insane.
You're right.
What is it?
For dogs, the
red line.
Oh, never mind.
The pills?
Yeah. Or like you can put like oils on their coat.
That's why I wear the flea collar. Plus, I look sexy.
Off? Like the what's that tick spray? The off stuff? Like what's in there?
DEET. Yeah.
Is that bad?
Yeah. DEET. Yeah, it's got to be.
Smells bad.
Drink it.
I just remember every time we'd go hunting, especially like bow hunting, so it's earlier in the year in October, even, there'd be mosquitoes. So we would bathe in that shit. Like we spray each other. Like, all right, now get me. And you'd like
my mouth.
Every inch you wanted covered because they'd eat your ass alive in the tree stand.
Yeah. Growing up, I only put it on my skin, right? Because that's where bugs bite you. And then my wife would put it on like her pants and her shoes and stuff. I was like, that's fucking genius. Like, why have I never considered that? It's like, I don't know, less exposure, yet still a little fog around you. Mm-hmm. So now I'll spray my shoes, whatever.
Man, bugs
I wore a face net that, that would
while hunting.
Not only was it camouflage, but I could douse that thing and not have to put that shit in my face. The off stuff. Yeah, I hated that. That was the worst part, was ticks. I would always have ticks. Like, not always, but like every year I would get a few ticks.
Yeah, that's just part of being a kid running around the woods.
Yes.
Nymphs. You ever get into a nymph nest? Tick nymphs?
Chiggers. I've had chiggers.
I did.
Nymphs? Are they like fairy tale
baby ticks
creatures?
Oh. Yeah, and a snark. You ever get in a snark nest? Fucking nymphs, like a baby tick. There's millions of them. You step into a tick den or whatever the fuck they're called, and you'll just have like a million of these tiny little ticks on you. Literally a million, not actually, but seems like it.
I don't think I've ever had those, but like we used to on my grandparents' farm when we were kids, we'd go out and play in the woods, obviously, because that's what you do, and you'd come back with like dozens of chiggers all over your lower legs, and then my grandma would have to get the clear nail
Lucky
polish,
you, Mr. Clear.
and then paint it all over your leg because apparently that suffocates the chigger that's living burrowed in your skin. And
first time I learned about chiggers, like the mountain, I used to go mountain biking, and they were explaining what chiggers do and why you can't go in New Jersey in certain times a year, and it was like, can you just say that word? Like, I'm uncomfortable with this conversation.
No, chiggers are the worst. They're like they're even worse than
man, I've been over here in this
Taylor, don't
conversation.
badmouth chiggers. Gonna get demonetized.
I don't like them. They itch even worse than mosquito bites, and there's sometimes not even like a big mark of where it is, so you just have like a feeling of itching in that whole region of your leg, and there's no satiety.
Dude, I got since the last time I was on the pod, I got bit by a fucking brown recluse on my chin.
Ooh, on your
Still
chin?
got a little shin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my huge chin. It's fine now. It's still like a red circle, but I thought it was a normal bug bite, and it got bigger. And I was like, all right, I'm going to draw that little circle around it. It didn't hurt or anything, so I was like, there's no way this is bad. And then it went past the circle. I was like, I'll draw another circle.
That'll fix it.
And then it's just like, it kind of stopped and then got really like ugly looking. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's probably a brown recluse bite. I should probably go to the hospital. Didn't. And then it didn't itch, or it just didn't really give me the vibe that I should go to the hospital. So I didn't. And
in fact, I had no pain from the knee down.
Yes.
It was almost numb. It was almost like there was no feeling at all. But yeah, it's still like a little red dot, but I seem to have healed. So
that's good.
Yeah, you didn't have like a necrosis. Maybe I'm pronouncing it right. Like a hole.
There's like a little hole there, a little necrosis hole, necrotic hole. Yeah. Little hole there. I got my finger in it right now. It's not that big. It's not that big.
I still have marbles in it.
We have so many brown recluse in Missouri.
Yeah.
Like it was always a thing where it's like, be careful. Like if they could bite and kill you. And it wasn't until I was like a legit adult in my like late 20s that I actually looked it up, because I got a bug bite and I didn't it wasn't a brown recluse, but it's like, oh yeah, in like 1% of cases, it can be so bad that it requires hospitalization. Usually it'll go away on its own, like another bug bite. And I'm like, oh, this is, I always saw the brown recluse and the black widow as more like peers in the spider venom world.
Mm-hmm.
No, brown recluse is so much less scary than a black widow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's usually,
have you looked
the
into
scratching and gets infected. Sorry.
If you scratch what, it gets infected?
If you scratch the wound, that's usually what happens, is scratching it and it gets super infected. That's why you have to go to the hospital. Sorry to interrupt you, Woody.
Better than just draw a circle. No, it's fine.
You're
my
good.
fault.
We interrupted.
Have you looked into black widows? Is there a chance that they are 1 in 100? That
they're also like they're not gonna kill you unless you're like already on death's door and it's a big fucking black widow. It's not gonna do much, but like it can give you nausea and like you can throw up, stuff like that.
I just want to correct one thing. Taylor's talking about adults. For kids, if you're like 3 and under, that spider bite can be a really big deal. Get looked at.
True. Yeah.
For sure.
So for all the parents out there who are putting off going to the hospital for their 3-year-olds,
listen to me.